Hello, hello, hello. This is HAT500 slash Challenger Track 98 slash Eloise Ornoy slash Hilo. And in this video, we're going to be talking about Dark before Guild War. We're cutting it a bit close on this one, but as most of you probably know at this point, I just recently transferred to actually recognizing Dark as an element, and it's not just something on the back burner for me. So, that being said, I am not seasoned with experience when it comes to Dark, like I have been with Fire and Light for the last two pre-Guild War discussion videos, but I'll try and do my best based on what I've been testing for the last 2 days, and just what I know of the Ellie in general. So, but before that, what I want to say is thank you again for everyone who came out to the Orologius stream and supported me there. That was awesome. I've never had that many eyes on me before when it comes to a video or a live stream or anything. I guess video maybe not so, but live stream, I've never had that many people there. That was awesome. And if you couldn't make it, that's okay. I do have the VODs, and I know some people have been going through and watching those, so I appreciate it regardless. Thank you for supporting me. Also, in conjunction with that, I've been thinking about it a bit. Some people have mentioned streaming on Twitch, and I was going to multi-stream, but I think for right now, I'm actually going to continue to stay on YouTube. Predominantly, because I don't really want to like split my fan base or try and do something where it's like every single time I stream on Twitch I gotta like make a video to come tell you to come to Twitch, or like I have to I have to look at both chats at the same time, like, you know, you guys know I only have one monitor. So I thought about it, and I'm just like, I think I'll just stick with YouTube, especially with how often I actually stream. I think I will just stick with YouTube for now, and we'll see how it goes with just YouTube. If I get like super big, maybe I'll reconsider. But I think that's the current plan. Also with the streaming thing, some people have said that they wanted me to stream Guild War, so I will stream Guild War. I'm not planning to go super hard on it, but I will be decently hard on it. But the thing about it is I don't take off for Guild War anymore. Like, I don't take off like a day or anything, so it will just be whenever I have time. I'll try and schedule it. Like, I'll know once we get into Guild War, I'll know like my schedule for that day, so I'll try and schedule the stream. But yeah, it's just gonna be like whenever I can play the game. Honestly, I'll just stream then. Also, some people wanted me to stream Dawn Trail for Final Fantasy XIV, so I will try and stream that as well, my leveling and story progression progress. As long as it does not disconnect me, because getting disconnected at the start of an expansion is really bad, because you might get stuck in queue for like 5 hours. So as long as it doesn't mess with my connection, I'll stream that too. All of that being said, okay, yeah, let's move on to Dark. Okay, so for Dark, let's start with weapons first. We'll start with the newbie. We'll start with Orologia's weapon, and then we'll go into some of the other weapons. So Orologia's weapon, the Causality Driver, it's a pretty good Exalto weapon, I'm not gonna lie. Some things of note: it has this echo, which is really good. In my opinion, out of the 3 Exalto types that we have gotten, the echo one is the best, in my opinion. It's like the most universally useful. It's just like, it's really good. So this is really good for the Exalto. Having this triple attack is also really chic nice. It also, now that I think about it, works really well with Dark too, because even if you did want crit from like how the other ones have it, you are an Ellie that has Babs, which I need to talk about later. But if you wanted to do crit, you're an Ellie that has Babs, Shalim's weapon, so you can get crit very easily, so you don't really need it on this weapon. So the triple attack, especially considering triple attack is harder to get in this Ellie, this is good. This is pretty good just to have innately while you're using multiple copies of this. Another thing to note, we still do not have the Primarch character for Dark yet. So if you want to use this weapon single-sided, or if you want, sorry, if you want to use your Fa 0 keys single-sided, even if you need 3 of this weapon, because you need this weapon, you need the single-sided Hades, and then you need Fediel, the maxed out Fediel summon. You can't take out Fediel, or you can't take out one of these, because we don't have the Primarch as that filler. I'm sure that we'll probably get the Primarch at some point, but it's not going to be in time for Guild Wars. So again, if you want to do single-sided stuff with the Fall 0 keys, you need 3 of these going into Guild War. So that's something to note. This weapon in general, though, one thing I have noticed that's kind of restrictive with this weapon is I've noticed now that I've started borrowing stuff in Dark, that Dark, for one thing, as you notice, this is a katana, right? And if you will remember, Dark's resonator weapon, ES, needs 4 of the same like type of weapon. So it needs like 4 of a katana, 4 of a sword, 4 of a bow, whatever. It needs 4 of a type of weapon, which on first glance, if you're using 3 of these, is really freaking easy because your Opus is a katana, right? So it's really easy. But the thing about it is, I've noticed that Dark, besides that combination of the 4 katanas, besides that, the issue becomes that Dark uses a lot of different weapon types. Like a lot of different weapon types, and I'll show you a grid that I actually got kind of stuck on. So let me show you what I'm using right now for Luminaria, like Credo Omega, whatever you call her. This one. So the Zosimos you can kind of ignore. Just pretend that this is like a Parazonium instead of Zosimos, right? And just imagine it's either a staff or a dagger in this slot, right? So if you look at this grid, like I said, this is fine, right? This is fine because you can use this. The issue becomes, okay, let's say this originally was a double Hades setup, right? And normally in the other Ellies, when you go double primal, that's when you can go down to two Exaltos instead of 3, right? But the issue becomes, if you do that, you run into the issue where it's like, what other weapon do you have 4 of, right? So like, I'll go through the steps of what I wanted to do, right? When this was double Hades, what I wanted to do was I wanted to take out one of these and put in another Fediel Spine. But if you look at a grid like that, it becomes 2 staffs, 1 dagger, 2 axes, 3 katanas, and then did I say 2 spears? So like you run into a situation where you can't really use 4 of anything, right? Because pretty much the only combinations that Dark has access to when it comes to using useful weapons is 4 katanas, 4 daggers, or 4 axes. Those are like the 3 main combinations that you're going to use. So like, let's go look at another grid, right? Let's go look at an Eresh grid, right? So, well, okay, maybe not this one. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, so this one, right? So this one. Let's say in this situation I was going double Hades and I wanted to take out one of these. That would be fine because then I have the Eresh, I have the Ultima, I have the 2 PNS. But even this kind of falls apart if you don't want to use an Axe Ultima. For example, if you want to use 6 and Bowman together, and you want to use like a fist type setup, so you want to use like an Ultima fist and you want to use like the Celestial fist, right? If you run into a situation like that, like I can actually I might still have it. I was doing some testing earlier for 95s, 90s, and EX pluses. Yeah, so like a setup like this, right? You can't, like, you'll see this setup right here. There's no space for that dagger. Like, you either have to take out that dagger entirely, or it just doesn't really work. Because, you know, if you want to use, I was trying to use like a fist here, but then you just it's all over the place. I kind of don't want to explain this setup, so I shouldn't have looked at that one. I don't want to explain that, but my point is, trying to fulfill your ES's requirement is extremely hard unless you are falling into the 4 katanas, the 4 axes, or the 4 daggers, because Dark does have like ES itself. It has Parazoniums, and it has whatchamacallit, Nier's weapon. Yeah, so it has daggers, and you could also use like a dagger Ultima. You could also do that too if you have it. So, but those are like your 3 main combinations. All that is to say, for this weapon in particular, if you're going down to less than 3, really make sure if you're trying to use ES that you're actually going to hit the ES requirements when you take this down from 3 to 2, because you may run into situations where those 4 katanas, these 3 plus your Opus, were the only 4 combination that you could actually fit in your grid, without just putting in random stuff. You know what I mean? So just be aware of that. But all that's to say, that's a big tangent that goes into other weapons as well. This weapon is pretty good. It's pretty good. Like I said at the start, the Echo, in my opinion, is still the best one that we have right now. Echo's just really freaking good. So yeah, this weapon, good. Right now, you want 3 so that you can do single-sided stuff, but as soon as we get a prime mark, you can start doing 2 like the other LEs can. But right now, if you're really invested in Dark, you kind of really want 3. Okay, so next weapon. I'm not going to spend too much time on it because I kind of talked about it a lot right there, but I'll talk about ES. So ES, this weapon is still good. I would say, as opposed to something like Light, this weapon you can use 2 more often than you do with like Luofus, but I will say that 1 is also very good, mostly because since we have Exalto now, I think I mentioned this in the Light pre-Guild War video, but resonators are kind of getting like devoured by other weapons, and I think I said this exact same thing in Light, where it's like as soon as an LE gets Exalto, these things start to drop like flies because there's just not enough space. There's really just not enough space. The main time that you're going to take 2 of these is if you need the HP, the defense, or if you just don't really have like anything else to throw in there. They can still be a good slot to take 2, but I feel like you're mostly going to run like one of them. Especially if you have like everything that Dark has to offer, you're probably going to stick with like 1. 3 is still like extremely niche, but it's also good for high level stuff. And again, that kind of also fits into the whole 4 aspect of it. So I'll show you another grid. I'll show you like an extra grid. So this one right here, this setup, by the way, is taken from Mr. Some DY, I think is how you say it. Some D some DY. He's a Dark Lord. I'll post his setup for what he was using this on for Fall 0 in the description so you can see it. But this setup here, this setup uses 3 of them. But if you'll notice in this setup, this is for Fall 0 again. It's like, what else do you use? Like if you so you want HP, you want survivability, you want defense and stuff for something like Fall 0. So you could have put a 3rd one of these, but you're already, for this setup, you're going to be doing double Hades. So it's like, if you're doing double Hades, there's not really a point in taking a 3rd one of these. So you might as well take this. But at the same time, that's kind of like the only thing that will fulfill your 4 requirement, because now you have to do 4 daggers here and then something here, right? So it's just like, and like I said, in pretty much as soon as you don't use Eresh, the axe one is axed. Because essentially there's only 4 really good axes in usability and wise in Dark. It's 2 PNS, the Ultima, and Eresh. So if you take out even one of those, you can't do 4 anymore. And then again, if you take out even one of these, then you can't do 4 katana anymore. So you see what I'm saying? It's very kind of restrictive. So even though this may not technically be the best, assuming let's say that this thing's effect was on Fediel Spine. So Fediel Spine was the thing that was giving you, and it was like, I don't know, this is a really weird roundabout way of saying it, but just imagine that you got this thing's 4 effect just for free. You just got it for free, right? So it didn't matter what weapons you put here. You probably would only take like 2 of these, and then you would put like a celestial weapon here or something. But because we don't have like celestial dagger, like maybe once we get celestial dagger or celestial axe or something like that, you can put that here instead. But right now we're still kind of restricted to 3 of these in a grid like this because you have to fulfill your 4 weapon requirement. I hope that makes sense. I'm kind of like I'm kind of really rambling with that, but my main thing is just when you're using this weapon with Dark, because Dark's weapon types are all over the place, you really have to make sure that you're hitting your 4 weapons, because they don't just, what I'm trying to say is the 4 weapons don't just line up for free a lot of the times in Dark. Sometimes they do, like when you use Eresh, they usually just line up for free, but they don't always line up for free. So you have to like make sure that you're using the right stuff, right? Another weapon, let's move on from ES. Another weapon to look at is PNS. PNS is still PNS. I don't expect to see this dropped as much in Dark as in Light. Maybe, but Dark does not have as much assassin stuff going on as Light did. So I want to say that you'll probably still use 2 of these during Guild War, but even outside of Guild War, they're still very good. In my opinion, PNS is still a really freaking good weapon in general. Supplemental, I've said multiple times before, is just a very impactful skill, and like I said before, I think that they, at this point, they kind of just need to make like a PNS 2 with just PNS, but it's just better, to kind of like completely destroy this weapon. Or we just have to get completely filled up on space. They just have to make something even more broken than supplemental damage. But yeah, PNS still used. Let's see what other weapons. Fediel Spines. Fediel Spines are pretty decent, especially if you're doing double Hades. They're pretty good. The skill, like, there's a lot of skill damage on a lot of different characters in Dark, so this is still a very used weapon. It's very strong. You have characters like Lich. You have characters like that just counter, like Six or Bowman. You have characters that just send off nukes, like Fediel and Sidala. And MC Magus, Summer Magus. It's just very strong. It's very strong. Plus, this also gives triple attack, which also combines with your extremity key, combines now with your Exalto. You get a lot of triple attack in Dark now just for using your weapons. It's pretty nice, unironically. So yeah, this weapon, maybe 1 to 2 depending on how much space is in a grid. I don't know if you're going to really use it for burst. Sometimes you kind of use it for burst, but now that we have Exalto, that space is kind of getting filled up more, that you may have used in burst before for the counter damage. So yeah, maybe not as much for burst, but probably for full auto still good. I don't know, maybe 2, depending on the composition. But again, see, that's another thing. If we go back to like my Zosimos full auto, right? If we go back to this again, this is the same situation that I ran into before, where it's very hard to fit 2 Fediel Spines because there's not space. There's not space if you're gonna try and use this. If you're going to try and use ES, which I think is probably better than just running 2 of these, it's just, there's just not enough space. You pretty much have to like main hand one of these things, which can work. You could always take out Zosimos and then just like main hand your ES and then put in a second Fediel Spine and then just full auto like that. That could work. but it's something to think about. So 2 maybe not, but 1 is still really strong for the Fediel Spine. Okay, moving on. Small thing. Opus. I'll probably mention this in all the videos, but again, Opus is still very strong. The whatchamacallit, the extremity key, still very good. Honestly, I could see use for the other keys as well. The skill damage key, also probably pretty good. But I just like extremity. I think most people just stick with extremity. But yes, Opus is still a big player in Guild War. We're still, you know, like, I think it's only the second Guild War that we've had boosted Opuses. So something to think about in these Guild War. Blood Gang, I mean, maybe for full auto. Parazonium, we're not going to really use 2 of these, no space. But Parazonium is still not a bad weapon. Having this might, having this damage cap, still good. It also just has a big mod. It's just a nice extra weapon to have, to be honest. It's also, if you don't have, you know, something like Zosimos, it's still a very good main hand, especially if you're oging, because it has a really good cheeking ogi. So it's still good to have at least 1 Parazonium. Still a pretty useful weapon when it comes to full auto and even burst, to be honest. It can be a good filler weapon in a burst grid to just throw in there. I want to talk about Fallen Swords a bit. Fallen Sword, people have been using 2 of these quite a bit as of late, because Fallen Sword, you know, Fallen Sword is Fallen Sword. It has these mods, but also the triple attack is just really heeking good. So if you have 2 of these, you essentially have 20% triple attack just for free. And again, you know, a lot of stuff is giving you free triple attack in Dark now. You know, you're getting it from Fallen Sword, you're getting it from Exalto, you're getting it from Fediel Spine, you're getting it from Extremity Key. All that stuff is very good. Plus whatever buffs that you may have. You know, if you use Fediel's field just has, you know, 30% extra triple attack. You know, it's just really good. You get a lot of triple attack off of stuff, so it can help make not only your stuff hit harder, like your setups hit harder, because it's a good weapon for mods, but it also just has consistency with the extra triple attack for free. Do you need to? I don't really know. I think it's slightly, from my testing, some of you may know I was debating borrowing a second one of these. I did. I did. So I have been testing that a bit. But honestly, I'll show you what I was testing it in. I was testing it in a Proto Bahamut setup. In here, this was the Proto Bahamut setup I was using. Honestly, in this setup, instead of using a second one of these, you could just use a second ES instead, a second one of these, and it works. It's like slightly less damage. It's very comparable damage. It's not that different, honestly. Again, you still do have the consistency of the triple attack, and the Fallen Sword is better damage. So if you really wanted to min-max, it is good, and maybe that min-max will matter for Guild War. I'm not sure yet, but that is something to note. If you don't have two ES will probably work for most things that you need, honestly. Another thing, while I'm talking about very strong mods, something that I've been trying out earlier today, actually. This one is not a grand. Let me see. Revan weapons. Wait, what do I have to click off of? Oh, I clicked Revenant weapons. I need Revan weapons. Okay, these are very, very strong. These are very strong. These are essentially like amped up Fallen Swords, but instead of having the extra triple attack from the Fallen Swords, you just get more raw damage, essentially. These things are really heeking strong, and they're really nice to just throw in to a burst type setup to make you a lot stronger. These are really nice. I know some people have farmed up to like 4 or 5 of these. I only have 2. I kind of got lazy with Agastia, I'm not gonna lie. But honestly, I don't really think you're gonna need more than 2. I hope. But just based on what I've been testing, there's not really a lot of space for more than 2 anyway. So I don't really know if you're gonna need more than 2. But having 1 or 2 of these in your back pocket, especially from what I learned last Guild War with Concordia, these could be pretty good. These could be pretty good to just have these around. So yeah, these are just a big, I love this thing's effect too, like the way it looks, because this thing is just pure chaos. It is just damage. It's just cheeking damage. It's really nice. Attack versions of those are really cheeking nice. Let's see. Is there anything else I need to talk about in terms of weapons? Let me go back to Grands, and I do want to talk about Illustrious, but I want to finish out all the Grands first. Oh, I know. Let me go to the stash. The unbarred one. Babs. Okay. So Bab, I was expecting Bab to get saved like how Noah Dagger did in Light, where the Dark Exalto would be crit, and then it would play into Bab the same way that Noah Dagger plays into it. It did not do that. They did not go the crit route for Dark. So this weapon has fallen off drastically, because it is very hard to now fit this into your grid, because it doesn't really do anything for you besides the crit and the HP. Which, to be fair, these are good, but it feels like there's better slot-ins. Even if you go back to let's go back to like this extra grid, right? For Fa 0. It's like, where in this grid do you put the Babs? Like, and see, this is another thing where it's like, okay, how do you fit in the Babs and do ES? Because essentially what you'd have to do for this type of grid is you would have to take out, like, you would probably take out 2 ES, or an ES and a Fediel Spine. But if you do that, I guess technically if you did that, though, you could be fine on the 4. You could be fine on the 4, because you could do you could go the Axe route with 2 PNS and 2 Babs. But the question is taking 2 of these out, or this and this out, for 2 Babs better? That I don't think so. Because I don't think, even with this, like, if you look at this thing's HP, I don't think you really need more HP than this. Heck, you're capped on HP anyway, right? You're capped on HP anyway with this. So it's like, is the crit really gonna matter enough to beat out this grid? And I'm not sure if it's going to. So if the crit doesn't beat out, like, you know, potentially up to like 14% special cap plus the defense that you're getting from these, or like the supplemental damage and like 7% special cap plus defense that you're getting from this, you know, it's kind of not worth it. So even in something like this, like an extra grid, there's just not space. And if there's not space here, there's definitely not going to be space in a normal grid. So it's just like, Bab kind of got screwed. I'm not going to lie. It kind of got screwed because there's just not space for it anymore. And Bab, honestly, after I saw what they did with Noah Dagger, I was certain that Bab would, Dark would get the same thing. But they did not want to go that route. So, you know, Bab right now, the unbarred one for me, I don't really see a use for it in the current game. Which is kind of weird. But until we start seeing more crit related stuff in Dark, I don't really see why you would use that weapon, honestly. Yeah, I don't really see why you would use that weapon in most scenarios. So yeah, that is Bab, and I think that's all the relevant grands that I want to talk about. Okay, so next let's talk a little bit about illustrious weapons. I will start with Zosimos first because Eresh should be pretty quick. Zosimos is fun. Zosimos is fun. Honestly, since using Zosimos, my biggest gripe is just that there is not enough Dispel Cancel in Dark. The fact that this weapon does not give itself dispel cancel is kind of hilarious, I'm not gonna lie, because it gives you so many buffs and then you can just get dispelled right away. It's a darn shame, honestly. You can kind of remedy it with Lucifer summon. You can kind of, I'm sure there's other characters that give dispel cancel, but there's not a lot of relevant ones. I'll tell you that. There's not a lot of relevant ones that give dispel cancel. So that is its biggest weakness, is that dark can be very easily dispelled. Besides that, though, it is a pretty fun weapon. It may see some use in full auto. If Eresh, I've said this many times with Eresh and with Hraesvelgr, if Eresh cannot kill something fast enough, it falls off drastically, right? So if you get into the harder floors of the nightmares, 150, 200, once you get up there, if Eresh stops being able to kill stuff, Zosimos might be used for full auto. Might. Would I buy it just for full auto? Heck no. Heck no. Heck no. I mean, it's fun. It's fun. If you like dark, I think it's a fun weapon. But I would not buy it just for Guild War. Heck no. Heck no. Heck no. But it might be a nice weapon just to have. I think it's pretty good. I'm having fun with what I've used it with so far. I'll be real. Moving on. Eresh. I am finally an Eresh haver, and I am an Eresh enjoyer. Eresh is very freaking fun. I'm not gonna lie. Just being able to, I kind of like the fact that I've gotten Eresh so late, because I get to see all the secret hidden Discord tech that people have for Eresh. I remember when I was testing on stream, there was a couple fights. I think it was Horus that we were testing, where essentially it does all of its skill 3, right? So you only get this instant CA for 2 turns, but then it comes out with like the splitting spirit, then it comes out with like the berserker. I think it goes it goes 000 gives you another one, then splitting spirit, and then your berserker S1 will come back up. So you actually get like 3 extra turns on top of this, which is just like ridiculous. So seeing all the tech for it is kind of cool. It's also just still a really strong weapon to have. It being an axe, once again with the ES discussion, it plays into that 4 with the Eresh, the Ultima, and the 2 PNS is very good for that, for working with your ES. Overall, a very good weapon. I am definitely seeing the quality of life applications to it. I was doing some House of Happiness earlier, and I did a House of Happiness, and my old one for Earth was like 3 buttons and a summon. With Eresh, it's literally 1 summon or 1 button, and then you just mash through, and everyone just kills everything because they're just all double attacking. It's insane. And now I can do double Kaguya in House of Happiness. I need to upload that too, by the way. But yeah, it's a very nice weapon. I'm not gonna lie. It's very good quality of life. It's very good. I put out an EX plus for it. It's very nice for just doing a lot of damage for free. I definitely see the quality of life applications. It's very nice. So I expect to see a lot of Eresh, EX plus 90, 95, probably even up to like 150, maybe 200. I don't know. But I expect to see a lot of Eresh during this Guild War for sure. Eresh is very, very strong. If you are even somewhat invested in Dark, and you want to perform in Guild War, and you can get Eresh, you probably want to get Eresh. It's a very, very strong weapon. Okay. But I think that's all the weapons. So let me talk a little bit about summons. Summons are going to be really short because there are a lot of very high priority dark summons, but most of them are general use. So for one thing, you have like Sariel, right, which is just your Primarch. You have Bahamut, which is a general use summon that you use. Yes, he's good. This guy, Nyarlathotep, however you say his name, good for the crest if you're using any type of like mana diver stuff, but at the same time you have to remember again that now with where the heck are they, Hades. With the Optimus summons, the primal summons, they still get this 20% boost to attack and HP even when they're sub. Like when they're sub. So the only time that I think it takes 3 or 4 crests before the crest summons start to beat this Ellie attack, but these also give the HP as well for being sub-summoned. So for the most part, these are actually usually better than the crest summons. If you're using the backline, right? If you have the option to use your primal backline, like if you're doing single-sided. Bubs still very strong. Probably gonna see him in some type of burst setup, full auto, stuff like that. Technically a dark summon, so I'm gonna mention him. You know, Belial, kind of the same thing. You know, Belial, supplemental damage. We've been using Belial. We know Belial. Who else? Sleepyhead, maybe. I'm trying to think if there's anything where we may need Veil right off the bat. Maybe. Sleepyhead will be useful, maybe for the armored as well. I don't really know. My Sleepyhead is currently on standby. If I see need for her, then she will be something I talk more in depth about at the end, the post Guild War roundup type thing. Fediel Summon, you know, it's a 6 dragon summon. She's good. What else? Who else is in here? This chick, Zero. I can never say her name. Zero Nitra. Maybe useful. Artemis was pretty useful in the last Guild War for the Echo, so Zero Nitra could be good in this one as well. She also does have like this HP for sub, so if you need more HP on like your full auto, she could be used in that as well. But I think that's kind of it for summons. Like I said, most of the summons are just general use ones. Like the good ones in Dark are like general use ones that people just already know about in general, right? So I don't want to spend too much time on summons for Dark. But next we'll get into characters. All right, so let's talk characters. Let's talk characters now. If they'll load. Okay, I'll just go in order because there's actually a decent amount of Dark characters that could be used for various things. Let's start with, again, the newbie, Orologia. Orologia, unironically, Orologia, I still don't think they're god tier or anything, but they are very good. They are very good. They're very good for high level stuff. They're actually pretty good for full auto. I kind of low-key underestimated this thing. This is still kind of laughable. The attack and defense stackable thing is kind of laughable. You know, it's nice, but it's just nothing special. But the one-turn cut, not only on the skill, but also every 5 turns they just do it, right? One-turn cut is pretty nice. It's pretty nice. It does change up some setups, and it can be good just for full auto in general. Just to get your skills back up. It can also be used. I put out a Luminaria Credo full auto video where I used Orologia, and doing that with something like Mana Diver, where also Mana Diver has access to, I had mentioned it before when I was talking about Orologia, if MC had hunting to double strike, that, you know, sending off this nuke 2 times would be really strong. Well, guess what Mana Diver can do? Mana Diver can you know, attack 2 times if it has its buff up, right? So not only can it shoot off 2 of these if they have this buff up, but also they can get this buff up faster, and they can get the Mana Diver buff up faster because this is cutting your skill cooldowns, which is nice. Also, this buff is really freaking strong. This buff is really strong, and Orologia themselves are really freaking strong. I also mentioned before when I was doing my first impressions for Orologia, I was kind of scared about this, the low max HP and debuff resistance. The debuff resistance honestly doesn't matter because you get this, right? You get the nullified. I do kind of wish this had dispel cancel on it, I'm not gonna lie, or that it just couldn't be removed, but regardless, you get this. So the debuff resistance doesn't matter too much. The low max HP also doesn't matter too much because I didn't know at the time that this boost to defense here, it's not just one time in the sense that it's one turn. It is literally permanent. They just keep this. They just keep, like, your entire team just keeps this. I'm guessing until they die, right? So they just keep this boost to defense. I didn't realize it was more than one turn when I was doing my first impressions. So this once, like, pretty much, if you go down to red, if anyone goes down to red, even if it's not Orologia, and then they proc this passive, and then everyone gets the defense, not only are you back, everyone's back up to full HP, but Orologia now has this defense boost to cover up for their max HP. So it's really not that big of a deal, honestly. Like, yeah, it's bad, you know, but it gets counteracted pretty easily. And then if you also just throw defense awakening onto Orologia, considering they are mostly like a full auto and high level character anyway, so they're probably going to be defense regardless, it really doesn't, it's not that bad. It's really not that bad, honestly. So Orologia, like I said at the start, still don't think they're like, you know, god tier or anything, but they're definitely a lot better than I thought, and I'm glad that I've used them now and seen them in use to be able to tell you that, because I do like Orologia as a character. So I'm glad that they're not like trash. So yeah, also Orologia, going back to this for 1 second, this could be useful in Guild War because of the removing buff. And again, on the Mana Diver thing, if Mana Diver attacks twice, they can dispel twice, right? Plus, they can just, Orologia can just use the skill if it's off cooldown, which can also dispel. So, which can help with the higher nightmare floors, like once you get up to 200. So you may see this character in 200 full auto. I would not be surprised. Also with this and with this buff, like, they just help your team do a lot of damage, and they're no slouch themselves either when it comes to damage. So yeah, Orologia are pretty good. Let's look at what other characters. Bowman is still Bowman. I mean, I don't even know why I need to pull him up because he just does his stuff by himself. The dude counters, the dude does auto nukes, he just does a lot of damage in general. He's good for bursts. You're definitely going to see him in burst setups. Probably not, you know, probably less so for like full auto and like the super high setups, unless they can figure out some type of burst with him there. But yeah, burst character, but still a very good burst character. The thing about Bowman, a lot of people thought that Bowman and Fediel would creep Bowman, myself included. But honestly, they work together well, pretty well as well, because Fediel can also debuff for Bowman to come in and do more damage after them. So yeah, they also work very well as a team, these two. De La Phil, I don't know if you really see her. I don't know if you really see her for anything except maybe full auto. Yeah, maybe full auto. You may see her. Not that crazy, but she does help you tank stuff, so she may be useful for that. Vikala, maybe as well. Vikala does have dispels. Vikala has been useful in past Guild War for her dispel ability, for her survivability, because she allows your team to dodge more. So she could be useful as well. You could see Vikala being used. Not a bad character. Magus, more dispels. More dispels. Magus is a skilled damage monster. She's really good at debuffing. She's really good at dispelling. She also can low-key be a good thing for bringing in Nier on slightly longer full autos, because for the most part she usually dies at some point because she has this dot constantly ticking on her. So in things that throw out a ton of damage back to back, Magus may die really quickly. So she may not be able to run as much of the train as she wants to, but she's still pretty good. You may see her in full auto as well. Let's see who else. Uni, probably not. Uni, probably not. Cindrillon, I don't think so. Sidala twins, they're good. I don't think you'll really see them in full auto, but burst type stuff is where they excel, because they do a lot of damage. They do a lot of damage, and they also look at this. They dispel with this thing. But they also just have at the start of battle, they'll have for a couple turns this nuke at the end, right? So it just does a lot of damage. They do a lot of damage. They do have some utility with like these moves as well too. So maybe you could use them for full auto, but there's probably better characters to use for a full auto. Like I need to survive for an extended amount of time full auto. You may not use this character. But they're very good for burst, and you will definitely see them for Guild War. You will definitely see them in some regard for Guild War. Tira, I don't really know. I know I've seen people use Tira for burst stuff. There could be some secret hidden Discord tech that comes out for like the later floors where Tira gets used. I don't see her getting used early, but I see her getting used as you need to press more buttons in order to kill the boss. So later in the fights, it's like 150, 200, I could see Tira being used. Luane, no. Fiorito, no. I don't remember this chick's name. Jessica? Jasmine. Jasmine, no. I don't think so. Tico, her 3 is kind of good. Potentially might see this. No promises though, but maybe you see Tico in some regard. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. That 3 is kind of nice, but at the same time, a lot of comps that use Tico's 3 can also just swap out Tico's 3 for swapping Tico out for 6, and then using 6 as 1 instead for that button press. So Tico may or may not get used. Next, Ilsa. Ilsa still has not fallen out of favor too much. Not too much. She does still kind of sometimes you will use like Sidala Bowman Ilsa or Sidala Bowman 6. So she does kind of fight for a slot sometimes, but still very good. Very good character. Very good as well if you want to do any type of setup that like brings in another character, whether they die naturally or you death them. Remember, this is the Ellie with death. So you can use death to bring in like Nier or something like that, because remember Ilsa's cooldowns will reset, so she can, and this will go up in how many times she'll hit. So she can be really good, especially if you're doing any type of like death shenanigans. So Ilsa very strong. This is very good. Her crit, this is 100%. So everyone, it's like Halloween Mugen, where you'll just do 100%. Everyone will do 100% crit. Which also, by the way, Ilsa is another reason why the Babs matter less. Because this character is so prevalent, that crit, and we don't have like a crit boosting Exalto. The Babs matter even less because this is just 100% crit. So why would you build crit when you could just use Ilsa, right? So Ilsa, very good, very strong character. You'll probably see her. You can use her in full auto. You can use her in burst. Either or, you will see this character at some point during Guild War for sure. Yeah. Tabina, I know people used to do OTK with her, but now that Eresh exists, probably not. No one else on this. Well, actually, maybe Kupiton. Maybe Kupiton for something. I don't know. With Ogi. I don't know. Maybe like from some full auto. Maybe Kupiton gets used. I'm not sure. Haomao, if there's a lot of stuff to dispel. Then maybe Haomao gets used. Besides that, they don't bring like a ton of stuff that you would really use, honestly. Yeah, they don't bring like a lot of stuff besides their big thing is that they can dispel a lot. And technically they can debuff, but it kind of matters less. Azusa, I am starting to become an Azusa appreciator. Azusa can tank. Azusa can tank. Okay, Azusa is not bad. She's not bad. She can be a pretty good tank for you. She also does do a lot of damage with this. I'm not sure how much the skill middle key for your Opus, how much that helps actually make this, hit for the accuracy, but that can be good as well to pair with her. So Azusa, not bad. Maybe for some full auto, definitely not burst, but maybe for some full auto, you see Azusa. Cagliostro, no. Maybe Vajra. Do you use Vajra for full auto? I don't really think so. Lich. I don't know. Lich is kind of one of those characters where she's really good for full auto, but you don't really need her if you have every character in Dark. Lich is more of a, at this point, Lich is more of a high level character than a full auto, because a lot of the other characters can full auto faster than Lich can at this point. You also don't really want to, well, you might want to Ogi in Guild War, but I don't know. You may have to see. If you don't have all the characters that Dark has to offer, Lich is still incredibly kicking strong. But when it comes to her main niche of full auto, you may not use her as much anymore if you have other characters. I wouldn't be surprised if she sees use, because she's still a good character, but she's not make or break like she was in the past. Kind of the same thing with Fediel. Fediel, like, the thing with Fediel is, like, Fediel's probably more, she's more high level focused than Lich is. Where Fediel is just, she's really good for high level stuff, but she's probably less needed in Guild War. The one thing that might save Fediel, though, is, remember, again, this is the Ellie with death. So what you could do with Fediel is you could bring out Fediel, do S1, do S3, and then death her, and then bring in someone else. You could do something like that just to get, like, the shield and stuff on people, and then, he can do this, throw out her field, which is really a good thing. So Fediel may be used in some regard like that, even if she's not, actually used in the fight, like to full auto or anything. She may be used in that regard just for her field, and her S1, if you're doing, like, full auto stuff on the higher floors. Orchid is kind of like Lich. She's still very good. She's a very good full auto character, but there's just better characters nowadays. But if you don't have a lot of the other characters, she's still a really good slot in, and she can help you survive with stuff like this. She also gives you, like, Echo with this. It's just, it's very nice. She's a good character as well, but she's also in the Lich camp, where it's just like, there's just better characters for the most part, so I don't know if you will use her per se. Who else? Meg has kind of fallen out of favor. There's not really a lot of space for Meg, because Meg has mostly been a bursty character. But the thing about Meg is we have Bowman, we have Sidala, we have Six, we have Ilsa. There's not a lot of space for Meg. Because you notice I just listed 4 characters, which is already more than, you're running front line. So there's just not a lot of room for Meg. Maybe there's some really niche thing that you can do with her in burst, but at the moment, I don't know if she will really be used. Is someone to note, though. Cassius, I want to mention Cassius just because I do remember at one point, one Guild War, people used him for, like, dispels. So maybe you use him for dispels. Ko, I have also figured out recently that Ko is also a tank like Azusa. So maybe you use Ko for some type of high level full auto as well, like the 150 200s. Not burst character, but maybe a full auto tank character you will use Ko for. Let's see who else. Black Knight, probably not. Predator has not been used in a very long time. Maybe you see some type of manual burst with Predator. Maybe. But Predator has not been used for a very long time. But she is kind of a lurking legend, so be wary of her. Near, maybe for some full auto stuff, you could use Near. She's also just good because when she comes in, she clears your debuffs, and she gives you thirsting, so you can survive even longer because you'll come back from the dead. So Near, pretty good. Shalim, unfortunately, no, probably not. Shalim could be a death target, I guess, if you wanted to use like her S1 and S3, kind of like Fediel. But besides that, you're probably not going to see use out of her. Ray, you may see some use just swapping into a character, maybe for like full auto or something. Maybe even manual, just to give someone permanent double strike. I don't know. But yeah, I'm not sure about Ray. I'm not deep enough in the dark trenches yet to know all the tech with Ray. The rest of these characters, not really. Forte maybe in the background just for Crest. But the rest of these characters I don't really know. Vite maybe for people's OTKs. Besides that, I don't think so. Also maybe I don't think Eustace though. I think Eustace only gets used for high level stuff in niche scenarios. Olivia does still have this. It has been useful, and I think the past Guild War it was useful. She could be useful character again. We have gotten more characters since that Guild War, so maybe not, but something to keep in mind. Potentially a character that could be used. Vampy, no. This guy, Mark him, don't know what his thing is gonna be. I remember some people talking about that he could be like Necromancer, so maybe he gets used for full auto. I don't foresee him being used for burst though, but I have no idea what that character right now, because I have no idea what he does right now. The rest of these characters, 6, yes, 6 will probably be used for burst, maybe full auto, stuff like that. But the rest of these characters, probably not. Probably, maybe some full auto stuff with Cerberus, maybe, maybe Vanya if you're desperate. But yeah, I don't think the rest of these characters. But I think that's most of the relevant ones. I think the only other character I can really think of that I don't have is Summer Magisa, but I don't really know enough about Summer Magisa to really talk about her. So maybe she gets used for full auto. She's definitely not getting used for burst, so I can tell you that. Maybe she gets used for full auto, probably not for burst. So yeah, I think that's all the characters though. So, with that being said, I think that will be pretty much the wrap up for this video. I can't really think of anything else. If I have any addendums, you know where they'll be right after I finish talking. So yeah, if I can think of anything while I'm editing, then I'll put it in, but I think that's pretty much it. We went over the weapons, summons, and characters. So we'll see what this Guild War is going to be like. Remember that this Guild War will have 2 celestial weapons. It'll have Twewin's bow. Oh god, why did I call her Twewin? Teking Song's bow and Foom Foom's staff. And then it also has the skin, which the skin appears to be honor base and not, you have to get rank 100 or some crap to get. So, well, they've been kind of secretive about how much honors you actually need. I haven't seen like an actual number yet, but it seems to be honors based. So just remember, this Guild War is kind of important because there are 3 priority things that you want to go for. Especially like that staff celestial will probably be very useful. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't plan to go super hard on this Guild War, because I've told people multiple times this Guild War ends and then the next day is Dawn Trail in Final Fantasy XIV, so I do not have like a ton of time, between those 2 things. So I can't stay up until like, right then and there on, like I did before. I'm just not gonna have enough time. Also, this one doesn't fall on like a weekend like it did last time. But anyway, yeah, but I'll be trying to stream it too. I'll stream it. We'll do some testing and stuff for different setups. So that'll be a good time, But I think that's all I got for real. So we'll see if there's an addendum after this or not, but I'll see you in the next one. I will still try and do my post Guild War Roundup video. I just don't know how fast it will. I mean, I have to make it in like less than 24 hours, I guess. But we'll see. We'll see. It may be shorter or something, or I may be speeding through some things. We'll see. We'll see how that video goes. But yeah, that's about it. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the support as always, and bye bye.